Okay, we'll start with this. Some recent movement in the women's super featherweight division. It appears that quite low under the radar. Benavidez Shin of South Korea. She rebounded off that loss to Delphine Persoon early last month in October. Apparently, she had a small fight, a local fight, which she won by way of a third-round knockout. Those of you will remember, those of you that have been following this channel, that Benavidez Shin recently traveled to Belgium to challenge Delphine Persoon for Delphine Persoon's WBC interim title, which would have lined her up for this division's undisputed champion, Alicia Baumgartner, who's currently got that whole anti-doping fiasco going on. At the same time,
Delphine Persoon, WBC interim champion. Delphine Persoon, who beat Benavidez Shin.
She has a fight coming up per her social media. She's planning a ring return November 1st against an opponent that has yet to be announced. This will be Delphine Persoon's second fight of this year. 38 years old, but still punching, still dangerous. The way she chose to fight Benavidez Shin, it really caught me off guard. It caught me by surprise because both Benavidez Shin and Delphine Persoon are mid-range to inside pressure fighters.
Both are.
Volume punchers, but Delphine Persoon, there's more to her than meets the eye. She elected to create space, move and punch, box Benavidez Shin.
I wasn't expecting that.
Knowing that at 38 years old, a mid-range to inside fight, a bar fight, a brawl, wouldn't favor her, Delphine Persoon showed that she's more than just a pressure fighter. That when the situation calls for it, she can beat those feet, create space, set traps, she can box. She's not limited to just brawling, sporting a professional record of 48 wins with 3 losses, no draws, 19 knockouts, having only ever been knocked out once.
Just once in 51 professional bouts, and that was many, many years ago, over a decade ago.
It says a lot that Delphine Persoon, of all people, gave Benavidez Shin that much respect. It says a lot about Benavidez Shin that she was able to put Delphine Persoon on her back foot. Delphine Persoon, one of the more fearsome punchers, one of the more fearsome pressure fighters, anywhere in between 130 and 135 pounds. Not many can stand up to the pressure, the power, and the volume that Delphine Persoon brings. But opposite the ring, Benavidez Shin, earlier this year, she elected to box. That says a lot about the both of them.
Now Delphine is supposed to be returning in November.
And I don't know against who. If she stays in the winner's bracket, I wonder if at the World Boxing Council's next annual convention, they won't issue a mandate, order the fight between Delphine Persoon and Alicia Baumgartner, who by all accounts still is WBC champion. I've heard no word of Alicia being stripped of any of the titles she holds at 130 pounds in spite of that positive test. We don't know what the word is with that. We don't know what's going on. Is Alicia suspended? Is she going to be stripped? Is the outcome of the Andrade fight, is that going to be overturned and ruled a no contest? What's going to happen with that?
And when is the WBC going to order the fight between her and Delphine? Because it's about time.
Delphine Persoon, in her last fight, gave Benavidez Shin a lot of respect. She elected to move and punch. She elected to box. That would not be her demeanor towards Alicia Baumgartner. Different fight, different fighter, different methodology. Styles make fights, and at 38 years old, Delphine knew that she can't afford to mix it up with another volume puncher like herself. That's why she changed her strategy. Pressure fighters, they don't often do that. Most can't.
Which is why they don't. Most pressure fighters are no good on the back foot, but Delphine, she managed to win.
She wouldn't fight Alicia like that, though, because Alicia, unlike Benavidez Shin, Alicia, she's not a pressure fighter. She's not a volume puncher. She's a very strong puncher. She's got a lot of single punching power, but she's not the same aggressive volume puncher, mid-range to inside fighter that Benavidez Shin is. So if Delphine Persoon were opposite the ring Alicia Baumgartner, she'd likely get back to doing what she does best, and that's applying pressure.
She would likely fight Alicia the same way she fought Katie Taylor, by crowding her, throwing punches and bunches, backing her off, making a move.
Which point it would be up to Alicia to create some space, beat those feet, and walk Delphine into some punches. Get some respect. Try and hold her off, back her off, try to put a dent in her. It would be a great fight if they made it. The question is, when are they going to make it? When is the World Boxing Council going to order it? Hell, is Alicia still WBC champion?
Or has she been stripped as a result of that positive test and nobody's saying nothing? Nobody wants the bad press.
We need answers. In any event, Delphine Persoon is set to return to action early next month, and we'll see how that goes. In men's super lightweight news, you might have heard 1 or 2 days ago that Regis Prograis accused Devin Haney of scrubbing a loss from his record. I am familiar with this rumor. In truth, it's not a new rumor. I heard the rumor a little over a year ago, I believe it was, ahead of a press conference to announce their December 2nd junior welterweight title bout at Chase Center in San Francisco. Prograis put forward the notion that Haney had paid someone off to remove a loss from his record early on in his career, when Haney was gaining experience by fighting almost exclusively in Mexico for the first 2 years of his career. Haney, 24, turned professional boxer in December of 2015 at age 17. So I'm hearing Devin lost the fight in Mexico earlier in his career, but he paid to take it off his record, Prograis wrote on X, formerly known as Twitter. If that's true, that's the weakest shit I ever heard so far in boxing. Press conference is Tuesday, and y'all reporters better not let this shit slide.
Like I said, I've been privy to that rumor for over a year. I wouldn't be surprised if it's true.
Though I don't spend a lot of time on it because I don't think it matters anymore. I don't think it's relevant to this fight. Regis Prograis continued. I just got confirmation that it's true, Prograis wrote. Y'all reporters better do your research. It did not take long for Haney to fire back at Prograis, saying the unverified rumor was concocted by WBA 140-pound titleist Rolando Romero. Only a dumbass would believe some shit like that, Haney posted on X. This info is coming from Rolly. That should tell you enough.
Maybe it's true, maybe it isn't. Though in any event, it's not relevant. It's not relevant to the fight that Regis is about to have.
Because you're not fighting the fighter that Devin Haney used to be whenever this allegedly took place. You're not fighting the fighter that he was. You're fighting the fighter that he is. And whatever happened a couple of years ago when he was just getting started out, if that rumor checks out, if it's actually true, it's irrelevant here today.
It doesn't matter.
Even if it's true.
It doesn't matter.
In keeping with the theme of things that Regis Prograis said, Regis Prograis says, my performance against Zorrilla gave Haney the confidence in order to take the fight. And that bit of it, that much, I agree with. Regis Prograis looked more human, I'd say, more human than he's looked in recent memory with Danielito Zorrilla. After my performance against Zorrilla, it gave him being Devin Haney, it gave him confidence. Prograis told BoxingScene.com. You know his daddy was there, and it just gave him some confidence. I think they think that, they saw some things. His dad was there like, dang, you probably could take Regis, because the Zorrilla performance, it wasn't a good performance for me. So I think after that, listen, if I would have went and blasted Zorrilla in 2 or 3 rounds, Haney wouldn't have stepped up to the plate. But after that performance, they was like, you know what, I think I might could do it. So that's why I believe they're doing it.
I agree with Regis. That's what put the battery in their back.
They see the performance against Danielito Zorrilla and they tell themselves, you know what? We can add to a performance like that. It was Zorrilla's moving around that ring, staying on the go, that gave Regis a lot of problems. And they figure if we do that and add a bit to it, we might be able to outpoint him. Now, once again, Devin Haney is not taking Regis's comments lying down. He says that's not true. If you look at the dates, I called Regis out before that fight with Zorrilla even happened. So my dad went to the fight because he knew there was a possibility of us making a fight before then. So if he would have went in there and knocked him out, we were already in talks with promoter Eddie Hearn about making a fight happen. So it didn't matter if he looked like Superman in that fight. It's still a fight that I wanted to make happen because even though he didn't look good in that fight, I do feel he is the best at 140 right now.
That's Devin's side of the story.
But I still agree with Regis, even if what Devin says is true, that the talks for the fight started before the Zorrilla performance, before that fight. I think the performance in that fight helped those talks along, helped to make the fight more attractive to Devin and Bill because Regis looked human. If nothing else, it helped it along. Remember that as an undisputed champion, Devin had a choice, an undisputed champion at 135. He could have petitioned for WBO Super Champion status to become the mandatory for the WBO title, the one that Lopez has got. The Lopez fight, compared to this one, is a bigger cash fight. It has more of a profile, and yet, this is what Devin chose. This is the direction that he went in. I don't think that was an accident.
I think Devin viewed this fight as an easier fight to make, not just an easier fight to make, but an easier fight to win. because Regis is some years older, he's in his mid-30s, and him looking human against Danielito Zorrilla just made it that much more appealing.
The bit about Devin having an early loss scrubbed from his record, you hear a lot of cool stories about what happens in boxing south of the border, so it wouldn't surprise me at all if that rumor turned out to be true. The thing is, it's not relevant to this fight, and it's not relevant to the fighter that Devin Haney is here today. Now, maybe Regis, maybe he hadn't heard that rumor until recently, and he thought it was interesting. Maybe he thought he should bring that to light because most people don't know about it.
And maybe he thought he should bring it up ahead of this fight to get in Devin Haney's head, rattle his cage.
Maybe that's what he was thinking. It doesn't come across that way to some people. Some people don't like the energy from Regis, splitting hairs over this minutia based on events long since past that have no bearing on the fight and the fighter that is in front of him here today. That, yeah, maybe a couple of years ago, Devin was green, and he did lose, but he's picked up considerable experience since then, and that's what you have to prepare for. Not who he was, but who he is.
I said it already. He's got to turn the heat up on Devin. He's got to apply pressure, throw punches and bunches, crowd him, keep him moving.
Cut the ring off, move your head, slip the jab, and counter it with a backhand. Counter it with the straight left hand, with his Regis Prograis power hand out of the southpaw stance. He's got to keep Devin Haney under pressure so he can fall apart at the seams. I think Regis packs a big enough punch that he could knock out Devin, but he's got to be able to land, and in order to land, you got to throw.
You can't spend the whole round and spend the whole night, spend the whole fight looking for a single punch to do him. With a pure boxer, that's a mistake.
This is not the kind of guy that's going to stand in front of you, shoulders square, opening up and giving you every opening you need to counter. No, Devin is the opposite. He'll spend the whole night trying to create space and staying behind his jab to keep you at arm's length and out of range to deliver counters. You got to close that distance and rough him up. He wants a boxing match. You've got to make it a fight.
Never mind what happened in Mexico a million years ago. That's what you've got to focus on today.
Upstairs at super middleweight, Showtime executive Stefan Espinoza says, "What I respect about Benavidez and Andrade is they're not waiting for Canelo."
Well, I can't afford to. They've wasted enough of their own time doing that. It's about time that the both of these guys fought somebody with a pulse.
Showtime's Stefan Espinoza applauded Andrade and Benavidez for accepting a fight that his network will televise as the main event of a pay-per-view show next month from the Mandalay Bay Resort and Casino's Michelob Ultra Arena. Benavidez is one of the most exciting fighters in the sport. All action, big puncher. Not big enough to knock out Caleb Plant, but whatever. Espinoza, Showtime president of sports and event programming, said he has stopped 6 of his last 7 opponents, but in Demetrius Andrade, he's got a very worthy opponent. Former Olympian, 2-division world champion, hasn't lost a fight in 15 years. He likes to say he is the most avoided fighter in boxing, but I think both of these guys can make that claim. And what do you do when you have 2 avoided fighters in the sport? You've got one mega fight lurking.
Oh yeah, you'd like for people to think that David Benavidez is avoided, but David Morrell's not avoiding him.
And neither was Caleb Plant. Way back there in 2019, he was calling for the fight with Benavidez when they were both champions, unbeaten champions. He was calling for that fight. He wasn't running from it. It was David Benavidez's promoter that wanted to wait to do it. So who's avoided? Who's avoided here really? Not Demetrius Andrade. He's done a lot of avoiding of fights, a lot of avoiding of fighters himself, and we've often talked about that. In any event, that's how Stefan Espinoza chose to describe these 2 guys, and he continued, "Everybody knows the elephant in the room. Everybody wants the Canelo fight. But what I respect about these 2 men in this fight is that they're not waiting. They're not sitting at home, waiting to get a phone call. They're going out and making their case, taking tough fights, taking big challenges, taking risks, because that's what this sport is all about. On November 25th, no one is avoiding anyone. It's a great matchup, and
it's not like they have a choice. I mean, what's the alternative?
Demetrius has backed himself into a corner to where now he's in his mid-30s, he has no signature victories, he's never been on pay-per-view before, and if he wants to get there, he has to fight someone with a pulse. He's avoided too many fights for too long over the years. David Benavidez, he's no better. He's been at this weight for a long time. A very long time. He became a champion here long before Canelo Alvarez moved up to super middle. David Benavidez first became champion way back there in 2017. Canelo, in turn, didn't win a title at this weight years later until 2020.
That's 2 cycles of champions, close to 3. That's 2 cycles of champions that David Benavidez was there for. Didn't unify with anybody.
So when you say that what you like about this fight is that these guys aren't waiting around, they're not waiting by the phone, they're not waiting for Canelo, in many ways, they don't have a choice, because what's the alternative? Fight more no-hopers, fight more scrubs in fights that no one cares about, or not fight at all. Just sit on your hands. Give yourself a stranger every so often. Let the ring rust collect so that by the time you do fight Canelo Alvarez, you've been inactive for over a year. Like most PBC fighters. You tell me, what is the alternative to these 2 guys fighting each other? It's about time you both fought somebody with a pulse. I don't think they deserve a pat on the back for doing what they're supposed to do. You should have been doing this a long time ago.
It isn't actually my job to be understanding of your circumstances, sympathetic.
You were there for George Groves, you were there for Zerto, you were there for DeGale, you were there for Jack, you were there for Callum Smith, you were there for Billy Joe Saunders, you were there for Jose Uzcategui, you were there for Caleb Plant when he was a champion.
Yeah.
You wait until he gets knocked out and loses his belt, and then you fight him, and when you fight him, you don't knock him out?
As long as you've been at this weight, you don't get a pat in the back for fighting Demetrius Andrade.
And Demetrius isn't going to get one for fighting you. I'm not going to give him one. Demetrius Andrade has campaigned anywhere from 154 to 160 and 168. He's in his mid-30s, and he doesn't have a signature fight, not a single fight that you can brag about, that you can at least say, well, he fought this guy or that guy. The whole time, all these other fighters at these weights have been fighting each other. Anyone from Liam Smith to Daniel Jacobs to Sergey Didivianchenko to Arislandi Lara, so on and so forth, that you're as old as you are, having been around as long as you've been, and you don't have a signature fight yet?
What the hell have you been doing?
Oh, I think this is a good fight, I do. An intriguing one, and I, unlike many people, I am going to purchase the pay-per-view, but I don't have any illusions about the circumstances. What led us here? These guys don't have much of a choice but to fight. You've pissed too much time away already.
What's the alternative? Inactivity? You want to be inactive, or you want to fight more ham and eggers?
Pardon me for saying so, but you don't deserve a pat on the back for doing what you're supposed to do, what you should have been doing.